You're listening to the Deidre Reigel Hope and Healing Radio Show, where your voice matters. We are glad you're here and believe you will be too. And now, Deidre Reigel with today's guest.
This is Deidre Reigel. A big welcome to our listeners today and an extra special welcome to Ray Powers.
Well, thank you, Deidre. So nice to be here with you again.
It is quite a delight to have Ray Powers on the show. He is a father and an author and the writer of a poem of a very, very, very powerful song that we are going to be talking about. It's lovely to share this time with you. Let me just tell our listeners a little bit about you. Ladies and gentlemen, Ray Powers is a father. He's an author. He's originally from Long Island, and he finds that water is especially inspiring to him. And water for him comes in the form of the Caribbean, the Pacific Ocean, the Atlantic. He finds being on the beach very crystallizing, very empowering, very inspiring, and a source of solace as well, which we all need. In getting to know Ray, I discovered that he is a man of his heart, and he's a man who knows how to express himself. And he expressed himself in a poem right after the Parkland school shooting in Florida, almost 1 year ago, today being February the 9th of 2019, and brought the poem to me and a gentleman named Patrick Baker, and we set this powerful poem to music. It is now a music video available on YouTube and will actually become part of this podcast as this podcast goes into edit. So today I have the great delight of talking with Ray about his process pursuant to the Parkland school shooting and how this particular poem and song came about. So, Ray, without further ado, let me just get into my first question to you. What made you write this poem and this song?
Gosh, great question, Deidre. Thank you. So at the time of that shooting, I was currently unemployed and was bombarded with all of the video coverage on TV and everything you turn to, social media, radio, everything was all about this horrific shooting that had taken place. And I guess it hit me on a number of different levels. And it just in its own superficiality, obviously, it's a horrible, horrible thing for any of us to have to deal with. On a more personal level, although I didn't know anyone directly in that school, my daughter is a school teacher, and she has a son who's about to be 3. So it kind of struck me on a couple other levels. I remember her telling me years back that she wanted to be a teacher, and I never thought of it as a profession where she should probably get hazard pay, yet it's sadly turned to be that. But nonetheless, it was in just feeling all of the angst that I did from watching all this video that it brought tears to my eyes. I couldn't watch another news clip without crying. And I was driving across from the east coast of Florida to the west coast of Florida. And as happens to me sometimes with my writing, I call it a download. And I truly believe this particular one was a download from God, in as much as words just poured into my head at a rate so fast that I actually had to pull over and just start typing them in on my phone and my notepad for fear of crashing, because they were just coming so fast and I didn't want to miss any of it. So that being said, I put the rest of the words together, rearranged them a little bit, and it came to me 2 things. One was that this was something that God wanted me to share. And as Deidre, you and I spoke about as we went through this process with Patrick, it became apparent that it wasn't just about the shooting, that there were all these other senseless shootings that had gone on, whether it was at other schools or it was a concert in Vegas, it was a movie theater in Denver, Colorado, it was so many different ones of these police that are getting shot on a daily basis now. And
yes.
It just seemed to me that it touched more lives than just the 17 or so there in Parkland. And that's kind of where it came from.
I remember you sharing that, Ray, and I thought, what a perfect thing for you to do in response to this, because I think what happens to the psyche of so many of us is we are traumatized on various levels, and we all have some connection to this. For instance, you say that your daughter has had this inclination to be a school teacher, and you never thought that that job might involve hazard pay. So all of us have some connection, some way, somehow to these kinds of things, these kinds of violent, senseless acts. And so I think what you did on behalf of so many of us was you expressed the trauma for those of us who either didn't have the time or the inclination or the ability in the moment. And so I really want to thank you as a human being for sitting down on the side of the road and pouring your feelings onto paper. Really want to just give a big shout out to you. And I will tell our listeners freely that when the three of us, Patrick Baker, Ray Powers, and myself, were in the studio putting these words to music and creating this very powerful piece of music, and I really would call it artwork and expression, we all had those moments of deep and powerful emotion between us. So emotions were running high. It was a great expression for us. And so this was a wonderful story you shared with us about why you've written this song. So we've written the song now, Ray, and, I've been part of that process with you, and the video is made, and, a big shout out to Amaris Walker, who put the video together with us. So the video's out, the song's done. What do you want to see accomplished now, Ray?
Well, I think initially it was more of just an awareness for everybody to realize how much of this is going on. As we thought it through all the more and started to think about making something actually happen with it on a bigger level, the thought came to me that if this was something that I could put out into the world, possibly through a more famous artist than myself, that it was something that might lead to some financial gain that I would then contribute towards making the schools a safer place, maybe making police work safer, that it wasn't something that I did for my own monetary gain, but more to try and find some way to address the issue other than that's going on from a legal perspective.
Understood. Really giving that song out and letting it do its work in the hearts and minds of people. And then if there were a financial gain, that you would pour that back into, as you say, making our schools safer, police work safer, maybe doing something that would help ameliorate these, I guess, the results of these things happening, and maybe even do some prevention work, right? Wouldn't that be lovely if this one little song could do something that would prevent the next one of these happening, in whatever way. And I realize we're touching on very large and social and psychological issues here, but I really want to bless this song for going out and doing its good work in healing and even preventing these things. So I really hear you about what you intend. So that also brings me to ask you, who do you think this song will particularly resonate with?
Well, clearly anyone that's a parent, I think, probably has a fear they never thought they would have to have when their kids leave the house in the morning. I think even more that than you think of police officers, military people, they're professions that are known to be dangerous to begin with. So we know that there's always a bit of risk there, but we shouldn't necessarily, in my opinion, have to feel risk going to school. So although I think it resonates with a lot of people, I think being a parent is probably the most obvious
feeling for you, Ray, because I think for any parent that could have been their child. And that gets very frightening on the personal level, doesn't it?
It sure does, yeah.
I have friends who are school teachers, and when I read in the news that school teachers are being encouraged to learn how to handle a firearm and carry a concealed weapon and get licensed, it causes me to ask, what country am I living in and what's happening to our planet? It causes me great concern, because growing up, I always thought that school was a safe place, or the grocery store was a safe place, the post office was a safe place. I always thought my world was safe. And, of course, we've learned that it can be a very dangerous place in areas that we thought we were our safest and protected. Excuse me. So, again, Ray, I just applaud your efforts in writing a poem and speaking your mind and heart. And, as I got to know you, I said to you several times, and you impressed me as a heart male, someone who was really in touch with their feelings. And I want to extend this just a little further than the poem and say that I think what is happening on our planet now is that our men are coming more into comfort zone with being in touch with their feelings. And I know that's an overused phrase, but I'm meeting more men who are really open to exploring their heart and living from their heart rather than from just their brains. And I really applaud this. I call it the rising of the divine masculine, the healed masculine. And I say to you, again, Ray, as I got to know you, I see you as a man of deep heart and deep feeling. And I see this wave rising on our planet where our men are standing up and saying, I wish to express myself. And I don't care what anybody thinks of me. I wish to express myself in wonderful and heartfelt ways. And again, for that, I just really want to thank you for showing up in the world and expressing yourself and perhaps setting a new pathway, setting an example for our men and our women that it is okay to express ourselves. It is okay to respond on emotional levels with clarity and conscience. And so again, Ray, just a big shout out for me as a woman, because the women have always been the expressors of emotion. Men have always kind of get, you women go cry about it. We men will do something else about it. And so here you come along, a heart male, and you've written this incredible piece of music. So again, Ray, what a pleasure to be involved with you in this process. So I know we're coming to the end of our time here, and again, I encourage our listeners to stay tuned and watch the video because it is extremely, extremely powerful, and of course the song is just incredible. Big shout out to our editor of this podcast, Deborah Jane East, for putting all of this together. And a little word about Ray before we get off the line with him, and that is, as I said, he is an author. He has 2 books available for sale right now on Amazon, and the first one is called Letting My Inside Out. And again, I think that's just wonderful for a man to have written a book that says Letting My Inside Out. That is available on Amazon, both in audiobook and paperback. And he has a second book that's written specifically for children that's called Manny the Mindful Manatee. And it's about how to take care of our oceans and looking at what the next generation will live into as far as how we have actually taken care of our planet. So again, that's Letting My Inside Out, Manny the Mindful Manatee. That's a mouthful, Ray. Manny the Mindful Manatee. All righty, and I should have practiced that more. So both of those books are available, and I think you're also working on a third book, if I'm correct, yes?
Yes, I am, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Very, very good.
Poems and stuff.
So wonderful. So this has been my time with father, author, and now songwriter Ray Powers, and our talk about the poem called Broken Valentines. And so with that, Ray, I thank you, and I wish all of our listeners many blessings from this podcast. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye. See you next time.
Thank you, Deidre. Bye-bye now. Bye, everyone.
The views and opinions expressed on this show are not necessarily those of the show and host. This podcast and its content are not intended to diagnose or treat any medical or mental condition or substitute for proper professional care in this regard. You've been listening to the Deidre Reigel Hope and Healing Radio Show, where your voice matters. We hope you have enjoyed this podcast and found inspiration for your own life. If you would like to be a guest on this show, please contact us at drhoperadio@gmail.com. That's drhoperadio@gmail.com. I'm Oliver Dill on behalf of all of us here at the Deidre Reigel Hope and Healing Radio Show, wishing you a day full of joy and goodness.
No one could have imagined when you left that morn that by the afternoon you'd be forever gone. No one heeded the warnings nor took action in time. Seems there was trouble storming, broken Valentines. You may have been leaders, you may have changed the world, caught in a hail of senseless fire. Teachers, boys and girls, maybe it never would have happened if help had been there in time. If someone would have taken action. Broken Valentine. Broken Valentine, we had so little time. We thought these days would never end. Broken Valentine, you'll be forever mine. I wish that we could all be here again. I can't take the pain. Some things just got to change. Broken Valentines. Your future shown before you. Seems you just reached your prime. Family, friends, and loved ones can't do a thing but cry. See, we become disillusioned by these changing times. So much loss and confusion. Broken Valentines. Teddy bears and chocolates, roses that you gave. Seems the best that we can do is lay them on your grave. You will always be our heroes for sacrificing your lives. You'll be in all our tomorrows. Broken Valentine. Broken Valentine, we had so little time. We thought these days would never end. Broken Valentine, you'll be forever mine. How I wish that I could hold you once again. I can't take the pain. We must be the change. Broken Valentine. Broken Valentine.